thing is Santa. But as for me and Grandpa, we believe.
It is December 22nd, 2021. Welcome to The Daily Rob. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, and on all major podcast platforms. Now, without further ado, all the way in the UK, the one and only Rob Smith.
Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britain will only be saved by me, Stu, because I'm over here trying to talk to the boys. I've been in Hyde Park all day standing on a stump and saying, what are y'all doing? I used to respect you. Boris Johnson is a tool. Oh, by the way, have you ever seen his wife?
No.
She's 36 years old and she's pretty attractive.
Okay. Right on.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, but anyway, I've been giving them a hard time, Stu. I've reminded them about, defeating the Vikings. I've reminded them about the Battle of Agincourt. I've reminded them about the Blitz, and y'all are being a bunch of pussies. Okay. It's about time you got off your ass and didn't let these tyrants push you around. And Stu, I will say something about the British academic establishment. They're not totally in the pocket of Big Pharma, and they've produced some pretty good academic reports. And I might talk about one for a second or two today.
Right on.
So there, Stu. Would you like for me to bring you back some fish and chips?
I always liked those flake bars that they have in England. It's a little chocolate bar that it's very thin, so it flakes all over the place.
Okay. What do you call them? Cadbury.
I don't know
Does
who makes
Cadbury
it.
make those?
Possibly. I have no idea who makes it.
Yeah. Okay, Stu. Well, Stu, again, we have internet over here, and I've been keeping up with the news across the pond. And you know how we've been talking about this pervert John Griffin?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the U.S. attorney in Vermont today came out with some more information on him. And apparently he's been trying to pay off witnesses. Apparently they were breathing down his neck pretty hard in August. And he's offered to pay some folks to not tell the truth. Geez, Stu, a CNN guy not telling the truth. Who'd have thunk that? But like in August 21st or something, his attorney sent 4 letters to the U.S. Attorney's Office by people, one of whom was his wife, saying what a great guy he was. And 3 of the letters have been withdrawn. One of the guys who withdrew it said, the whole reason I wrote the letter was because I thought he was under investigation for this. He lied for something else besides pedophilia. He lied to me. So imagine that, Stu. Lying. Speaking of liars and communists, de Blasio now, he's got a new proposal out there. Well, procedure. He's going to send a vaccination team to your house. And Stu, if you agree to get vaccinated, he'll give you $100. Let me weigh, Stu. My health or $100? Adverse side effects? Myocarditis? I don't know, Stu. Real draw there. Richard Blumenthal, the guy with the plastic face. Have you ever seen his face, Stu? He looks like a doll. He's got so much Botox. But anyway, as we reported a few days ago, he spoke to a group of communists, and the people who call themselves communists, real live communists. And he's caught a lot of feces for this. But he says, oh gosh, I didn't know they were communists. Stu, have you ever been invited on the rubber chicken circuit to give a speech and you didn't know who you were giving a speech to, or why you were talking to them, or what they might want to hear from you? All right, Stu, the long knives are out for Senator Joe Manchin. Have you ever heard of this guy, Jamal Bowman? He's a Democrat from New York, and he's a member of the far left Progressive Caucus. Stu, do we have any Jamals in our family?
I believe we actually do.
Anyway, so as is so predictable, the only arsenal they have in their defense budget is to call you a racist, a misogynist. You hate women. You hate poor people. You hate everybody because you voted against our bill. Jamal, cousin Jamal, he said it disproportionately supports people of color. The bill is. It supports women. It supports children. It supports those who are poor and lifts them out of poverty. Well, I got news for you, Stu. No socialist bill ever lifted anybody out of poverty. This bill makes everybody worse off. It is a grab bag of pork and socialist funding to the beneficiaries of the left. It might as well be called theft. Moving on, Stu. Joe had an outburst today at his the world is going to end because of Omicron news conference. You know, Omicron, Stu, the horrible, horrible disease that has killed less people in the United States than people who have slipped on marbles. Do you know that?
Yeah. I think we're up to one now.
No, we're not. I don't think we have one. There's one in England, they say.
And I think we had our first one.
But still, they didn't die of a cold. Okay?
I know.
They died because they, had weak lungs and they were fat as shit and they had diabetes and they also had this. Probably the reason they had it is because they're so have such poor health. But
it was a 50-year-old with unknown underlying conditions.
Well, yeah, unknown.
9 hours ago. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, of course you don't, Stu. I'm right about everything. And you're a smart man. Okay, so he says this, look, the unvaccinated are responsible for their own choices, Biden said, but those choices have been fueled by dangerous misinformation on cable TV and social media. These companies have personalities, are making money by peddling lies and allowing misinformation that can kill their own customers.
Look, the unvaccinated are responsible for their own choices. But those choices have been fueled by dangerous misinformation on cable TV and social media. These companies and personalities are making money by peddling lies and allowing misinformation that can kill their own customers and their own supporters. It's wrong. It's immoral. I call on the purveyors of these lies and misinformation to stop it. Stop it now.
Well, Stu, I have never heard anybody, not once in the Biden administration, ever address any issue that the other side, that people bring up about these vaccines, like myocarditis, or the fact that only 5.3% of the people who have died of COVID actually died of COVID. Did I say that right? Yeah, only 5.3% of all the 800,000 deaths are strictly COVID related. Okay. I've never heard anybody address the spike protein issue we spoke about yesterday. Never heard anybody address the idea of trying to vaccinate in the middle of a pandemic. I've never heard anybody address the fact that these aren't vaccines. I've never heard anybody address the pregnancy issue. I've never heard them really talk about how they don't work. Never heard them talk about how masks don't work. And I've never heard them talk about how the vaccinated spread just like the vaccinated, and 100 other things. If you want people to do something, you lead, and you lead with the truth, and you are willing to engage because you're not afraid of the truth.
Well,
And
when
the fact that
the president first started his speech today, I guess you weren't listening. He said, "You know me, I always shoot it to you straight from my shoulder."
I promised when I got elected, I'd always give it to you straight from the shoulder. The good, the bad, the truth.
straight from his shoulder.
Whatever the fuck that meant. I guess.
What the hell does that mean?
I guess he has the gun like really cocked in there. So
yeah, he said, call on the purveyors of these lies and misinformation to stop it. Stop it now.
I was so hoping he was gonna say Joe Rogan when he was discussing that. I was just like, please say Joe Rogan. Just name him, because that's what he means when like he says personalities.
I want objective news. I want someone to tell me what are the facts of what's going on and what's happening. I don't want your ideological slant. I don't want this left-wing propaganda network, which is what CNN's become. The way I look at CNN now is so differently than the way I looked at CNN of 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I used to look at them as like, this is how I get the news. Now I look at them, I go, you propagandists. Like, what are you, the right arm of Pfizer? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Because Joe Rogan's been essentially going around giving what he believes to be, he calls it the kitchen sink treatment, where you take ivermectin, you take monoclonal antibodies, and a few other things. And that, I think from a science point, when you're dealing with a virus that evolves so quickly, you just nuke all sides of it with all these different weapons and hopefully wipe it completely out so it doesn't have a chance to mutate. Because some parts of it will be resistant to some of those medications.
Well, Stu, you and I both know that that treatment works, as do many other
Frontline doctors.
Pardon?
Frontline doctors, not people sitting in offices, going to congressional meetings and who have zero real world experience dealing with this virus.
That's exactly right, Stu. Anyway, speaking of, one of the reasons I'm here today is the Brits have done a study, and I've been talking to their scientists today. And this is a real study, Stu, in which they've looked at 38.6 million vaccinated people. Okay, so you got a big pool. And it has found that 1 in 100 vaccinated individuals were admitted to the hospital or died with arrhythmia during study period. Okay, 1 in 100, that's 1%. Okay, now not all of those folks died. Okay, but less than 1%, way less than 1% die of COVID. It's like 0.02. So 99.98 survive.
And so that studies essentially half the population of the United Kingdom, which is 68 million.
Right. And Stu, I will just say this. This is just arrhythmia. That's just one side effect. It didn't even delve into all the other side effects that we've already talked about: thrombosis, myocarditis, pregnancy issues. Why can't reasonable people talk about these things, and why do they gaslight you? Well, there's a reason, because there's a political agenda out here, Stu.
And some people, if you've never had arrhythmia, you might not even be aware you're having arrhythmia. I had to essentially train myself to be able to recognize it when my beats would go out of sync and I would have arrhythmia. So you could have people walking around with arrhythmia for days, feeling really crappy until they finally realize what is going on and get the treatment they need. It's not going to be something someone is immediately like, oh, this must be arrhythmia.
Yeah, so in other words, it's likely a lot more of it than what we know about.
Possibly, but you're also, the longer you're in arrhythmia, the harder it is to get out of it, and the more at risk you are for having a stroke, any kind of blood clot issue. I mean, that's the thing. And so that's when I saw that study, I thought that's where my mind went concerning it.
So even after you've had it, you're more at risk, or while you're having it, you're more at risk? Obviously, you're more at risk when you're having it.
The longer you're in it.
Right.
So the longer you don't realize what is going on, the more at risk you are. So, for example, if I'm in it for longer than 8 hours, they want to use the paddle as opposed to like use a pacemaker tool to get me out of it,
Right.
because they consider that the safer option. And
Right.
so and then when your heart's in that, the rest of your body is also freaking out. So your liver rises up, your kidneys freak out, your digestive system gets all out of whack. I mean, you have to remember your body is in concert with every other system. And so if one system is essentially on red, the rest of the body starts to kind of get impacted the longer it goes on.
That's why we call these side effects. And there's always a yin and a yang to everything you put in your body. Stu, just one of the biggest pajama boy wussies ever born is Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, who I could beat up with my pinky. Well,
he's also a hero to the people of Agrabah.
Of who?
He's a hero to the people of Agrabah.
Agrabah?
Yes, that's where Aladdin's from.
Oh, okay. Tell the people out there what you mean. He was wearing a costume of Aladdin.
The image will be to your right in the video.
Stu from the corner, bam. Well, these progressives, they talk about, all this flowery language, but they're really tyrants, and they can't stand any kind of opposition. Well, some guy was on the sidewalk with rebel news, and perfectly within his rights to be on the sidewalk, and he didn't even use the F word or anything. He just had a little bit of engagement with Trudeau's thugs, bantering. They were kidding around. And then they jumped the guy, and it's all on film. They ran his face into a fence, roughed him up. And because of the cameras, they left after a while, but...
Sidewalk. Hey, look, son. What is this? You cannot touch me. No, that can't work. Hey. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Let go of me. What is this? You can't. Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? Because otherwise you have no right. Huh? Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? Because you're not answering. You physically assaulted me, and so did you, and so did this guy. You're doing it again. Move your hand out of my face. What? Move your hand out. Guys. You have your hand on my throat. What's your problem?
You witnessed that.
Oh, I know. See.
Has Justin Trudeau said, hey, boys, you shouldn't do that? No. I mean, anyway, it just shows their colors. One other story, Stu. What's good for thee is not good for me, according to the left and Joe Biden. Now, this son of a bitch was on an airplane sitting beside a guy with COVID on Friday, okay? Under their rules, he should be quarantining himself for 14 days. But they say, oh, no, he doesn't have to do that because he tested this or he tested that. Stu, it's just another example of hypocrisy.
He had a full schedule. That's what Jen Psaki said.
What's that mean?
The president has a full schedule today and is not in need of quarantine. We will provide information to all of you as outlined with our commitment from just a few months ago about being transparent about close contacts. I don't have any updates for you at this point in time.
He wasn't available to test, I guess.
Yeah. And of course, do you believe anything they say anyway?
I'm praying this video will be out on Wednesday, but he gets tested again on Wednesday. And so I'm praying that after giving this speech about Omicron, he tests positive on Wednesday. I just think that would just be poetic justice for just the hypocrisy. And he coughed multiple times throughout his speech today.
Well, of course, we wish him well, Stu, from a health. We don't want to see anybody terribly sick.
He wouldn't get terribly sick, but I just think it would be
He
funny.
wouldn't get terribly sick. You know why? Because they would administer these drugs to him immediately.
He would get
They have refused to let the rest of America have.
Yeah, Florida can't get monoclonal antibodies, but they can stockpile them for themselves.
Yeah, you can guarantee the White House gets sick, they're going to be, swallowing those things in minutes.
I mean, Blinken was positive. Jen Psaki's been positive. So many people in that administration that are the big names have been positive.
One last story, Stu, from me is Bette Midler, Mensa candidate. She made fun of West Virginia. I made fun of West Virginia yesterday, Stu, about strychnine poisoning and throwing snakes around in church and hog bellies and roast possum. But I did that, Stu, because we're from Virginia and that's what we do. We make fun of other states like North Carolina. It's all in fun. But she's serious. Hollywood elite looks down on a place like West Virginia. She said they were poor, illiterate, and strung out after Manchin said he wasn't going to support Build Back Better. Well, Stu, I did a little research today. Guess what Bette Midler's education is? Well,
I would imagine she probably went to some college for theater or something.
God, Stu's right on the money. He sinks it from half court. She was a drama major. She dropped out after 3 semesters, which I think is probably a year. I think they were on a 4-semester quarterly system. Okay. Well, Stu, in West Virginia.
What school?
The University of Hawaii.
The University of Hawaii?
Yeah. She grew up there.
She was just probably partying then. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, she's 100 years old. And so that was just when anybody could go. They're the Rainbow Warriors. Anyway, but in West Virginia, 87% of the population has at least a high school diploma and above. And above means community college, and a number of other things. So I would say 87% of the population in West Virginia has more education than she does. 21% or so have college degrees or more. But if you blend it, vast majority of West Virginians have more higher education than she does. And I guarantee you probably nobody in West Virginia was a drama major. They're probably engineer majors and things of that, geology and things of that nature. So, by the way, my daughter Sally worked for her for a while, and I think that's what drove her to leave Hollywood and do something else.
It must have been cold there in my shadow.
What do you got, Stu? What has your great mind been working on? What have you been researching?
So Al Jazeera had this interesting article called Mexico's Lithium and the Global Race to Lock in White Gold. And so the article kind of discussed how there may be this massive claim of lithium in Mexico. And it's sometimes Mexico has been like inviting people in, getting their opinions on it, and then other times they downplay the claim. But I forget what exactly it's called. I want to say it might be called the John effect, but it's where you have people rise in an organization until they get to their capacity of competence. And I really think this is an issue where the Mexican government isn't competent enough to really know what exactly to do with what might be something that could fundamentally change the wealth of their country. And of course, the Chinese have been sniffing around wanting to get access to it because they want the lithium. And so I don't know if most people are aware of this. I just learned this today, but Chinese companies have been going into Mexico trying to curtail favor. They even revamped Mexico City's subway system for them. And they've just been kind of trying to be a part of that company. And they've even gotten involved with Mexican oil companies. But it's really tough for the Chinese to compete with the United States because the extent of Chinese investment in Mexico is minuscule in comparison to what's coming from the US, and then all the trade that naturally occurs from the US. But
I have a little news for you that's directly related to this.
Yep.
You know who their point man is around the world, opening up doors for them to who gets paid a very handsome amount of money by selling the influence of his country and his father to open up these markets solely for lithium? I'll give you a hint. He's a pervert. I'll give you another hint. He dated his dead brother's wife. I'll give you another hint. He was having a affair with a stripper while he was dating his dead brother's wife, and he knocked the stripper up, and they had a child, and he wouldn't pay child support, and they subpoenaed his records, and finally he paid because they didn't want him to find out about his lithium deals in China.
Is it Hunter Biden?
Damn, Stu, you're 3 for 3 today.
But yeah, so I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, lithium's important. We all have it in all of our technology, and there's been some panic that we might run out of lithium, and so it's just kind of an interesting article. It might be something people want to follow.
Yeah, lithium is also the key ingredient in batteries for EV cars, and it takes a massive amount.
And we all see whenever we get certain packages in the mail, they even have warning labels that, oh, this contains lithium.
And I understand that the battery prices on these EV vehicles have skyrocketed because of the cost of lithium these days. And there have been some, Wall Street type reports I've read that said that this is really going to be harmful to that market because they're pricing these things way out of line with consumers.
Damn. Yeah. And then my next story, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot pleads with AG Merrick Garland to send ATF agents to city after more than 760 murders this year, a 25-year high, just 1 year after she proposed cutting $80 million from the police budget. So she wants the ATF to come there for 6 months and help her get a handle on her city, even though she is just a buffoon in every capacity of the word.
Me and Ben were reading Lori Lightfoot, the mayor, her Yelp profile, which is pretty spectacular, as you would imagine it would be. Everything Lori Lightfoot does, everything she wears, every expression she makes or doesn't make, the pitch of her raspy voice, her turn of phrase, her kind of blank look, the stare when she just stares at a reporter. There's nothing about Lori Lightfoot that I don't love. Truly. I only want to talk to black reporters. constantly with the race card, constantly with the gay sexuality card, the misogyny card. I mean, again, a true Batman villain, a true corrupt goon, her local feuds with Burger King Ed, the disgraced city council member, as they fight over a Burger King renovation, her winning in a runoff election against some other idiot.
Preckwinkle, Tony
Yeah,
Preckwinkle.
whatever. I mean, just the idea that this woman is the mayor of Chicago. It's like it's a real city, right? So there's something very interesting about Lori Lightfoot to me. There's something interesting that somebody like her is able to climb the ranks.
They've got the money to fund their police, but she wants to beg somebody else to do what she should be doing. Sorry, Stu, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, she can definitely get anyone feeling kind of hot-headed. But some of my favorite moments of hers include when she told the press that she would only be granting interviews to Black and brown reporters, and how she got sued for that. And then I also really loved when she had the gentleman who was originally called the Dreadhead Cowboy. His real name is Adam Hollingsworth, and he was then given the title of being the census cowboy. So this guy on a horse would go to neighborhoods to try to get people to participate in the census. And because this guy was just some activist type, of course, he has a little bit of, I would say, mental illness. And then he takes his horse, gets on the interstate with it, and goes all the way down the interstate, making traffic stop, ruining everyone's day, and then has the horse almost ridden to death. And so that he's in court right now for felony animal abuse because he was riding his horse to make people more aware of issues pertaining to children. And so she just attracts the just weirdest and craziest people. And she is always in these weird costumes too, as well, when she's trying to get people excited about things. And then what's up?
You know, I said that there's a proclivity among the left to be perverts. There's also a proclivity for them to go to costume parties. Why is that?
Probably because they have the minds of children. I don't know what to tell you.
Ah, Stu? Damn. You scored a perfect 1,600 on those SATs. I know you did.
I don't know about that.
All right, Stu.
Okay. I'll catch you later.
Tally-o, as they say over here.
We were smashing. Bloody Nora. Oh, yes. Rumpy-pumpy. No. Oh, come on. Chuffed. Full of beans. Totally taking a biscuit. The dog's bollocks. The mat's nuts. Yes. I have always liked. Oh, what's that? Bloody marvelous. All right. Bloody marvelous. I made a funny.
On the half shell, they're the hero store. In this day and age, who could ask for more?